G'day, my name's James Baldwin and welcome to Oz F1. It's great to have your company here for another recap episode, this time for the Turkish Grand Prix. What an incredibly good race that was, hey? Wasn't carnage, but it certainly was chaos. And what a way for Lewis Hamilton to come through to win his 7th World Championship. An absolutely mega achievement by him with a mega drive as well. Stick around for this episode as we review the entire race. Of course, we go through all of the teams and we talk about all of the drivers. We'll also talk about the television broadcast review, and Tommy T gives an abnormally high rating for this weekend. If you're new to this podcast, please also consider subscribing. You can find all of the information about what we do and why we love what we do on our website or via all of the links below. We're also on Twitter, Instagram, and please feel free to join us on our Discord server. We've gone out of a group message between the three of us and we're starting to give you an insight as to what we talk about during the week and also for the race weekend with everything to do with Formula One. You'll find an invite link to the Discord server below. But for now, let's get into it. And I'm joined, as always, on the Oz F1 adventure by these two wonderful human beings. It's Tommy T, Thomas J. Camp. Boys, big g'day to you.
All right, lads, how are we?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, doing well. That was actually a decent race and a decent race time. I wasn't absolutely punished when I went to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning if you want to stay up in Australia and watch all the post-race interviews. It was a bloody good race for Australian watching.
Before you get too excited, we've got 3 races coming up to start at 1 a.m, 4 a.m, and 2 a.m. respectively. So
just don't think about it. Just don't think about it.
That 4 a.m.'s going to hurt.
Oh, man.
I just think we watch that at your work, Tommy.
Yeah, let's do that again. That was
I'm just going to come down.
Play on.
Probably can. Can I?
I don't know.
Nah.
You've probably got more COVID than us now, eh?
Victoria will screw it by the time that happens. Well, boys, it was a great race, the Turkish Grand Prix. So excited that Turkey was back on the calendar. They got really excited, so they resurfaced the entire track, therefore ruining pretty much every sort of chance anyone had of collecting any kind of data in free practices, which is not a bad thing, really, when you think about it. Tommy T, let's start with you. Give us your overall thoughts of the weekend before we get into everything that happened pre-race.
Good. I like it. So this is one of those tracks that I like playing whenever I'm on a racing game.
Yes, good.
It's always fun. But yeah, it was very interesting to see. So why did they leave it so late? How long have we known that we're coming to Turkey, and how long did they leave it before resurfacing the track?
To be fair, it takes the council here about 10 years to resurface one road, so I can only imagine
to fill one pothole.
Resurfacing an entire racetrack would take a period of time.
Because apparently this track is owned by a rental car company, and usually it's just full of rental cars. It's not actually for a racetrack, it's a parking lot. So they had to move the cars, and then they had to resurface it, so that would take some time. To be honest, I don't mind. I think that added a lot of difficulty. I think it was last year we were having a lot of complaints, especially around Coda, about how much that surface had moved, how bumpy it was. There was a lot of complaints there. So you can't have it both ways. Either you want a brand new surface or you want an old surface. Get on with it.
No, we're Formula One fans. We can have it 17 ways, actually, apparently, according to everyone else. Campy, your overall thoughts of the weekend?
Oh, I loved it. I love the
so
wet.
Good.
I just think it's great. It's great to see the drives in action doing what they do. It's tough to watch practice in those situations. I fell asleep Friday night, admittedly, for both sessions. And then qualifying the red flag. It's not your stock standard weekend. We're not going to see the top cars performing like they normally are, and it's a bit of a procession this time of the year. We can genuinely pick the top 10, not with absolute precision, but generally you can get it 95% right without things happening. But it's what we love about wet weather in motorsport. Just changes it right up, changes the whole dynamics of everything. It's no 100%. Longer about the car. Well, it is still about the car, but it's more about the driver and what he extracts from the car and the particular setup that he's running. So I'm all for it. I think the more rain, the better. But yeah, geez, it was probably the best race of the year so far.
100%. I don't. To be honest, I think that's going to be it. I have no sort of high hopes for Bahrain or for Abu Dhabi, to be honest. But anyway,
Bahrain could be interesting for our favourite team, Renault.
The big circle kind of thing, potentially.
Could be
Absolutely. But it's like lap times in 56 seconds. Like this is Nicholas Latifi is going to be lapped by lap 7 twice. I mean, what's even the point of being on the racetrack anymore? Well, boys, let's talk about the first and obviously the most important thing. Lewis Hamilton claiming his 7th World Championship. Finally, we saw an emotional Lewis. I think this year has sort of thrown him around all over the place. We've mentioned plenty of times on this podcast that we don't think his attitude has been quite there. But I tell you what, it all boiled over in the best possible way this weekend. And it was really, really great to see some wonderful tributes by Formula One. I loved the on the visor tribute of all of the world championships that he's won as well. Yeah, except for when
Couldn't say anything.
I've missed 2 of them because he's turned left.
Someone didn't think that one through.
No, that's very true. But it was a nice idea. But look, really, really impressive. We've said time and time again on this podcast, we sort of try to leave his off-track stuff to his off-track stuff, but really, mega drive from this dude. He got in, really had a really poor performance in qualifying, and the Mercedes just weren't turning on those tyres like the other cars. We'll get into that a little bit later, of course. But seriously, the gap that he closed and then the lead that he then built is like a 24-second gap back to Perez by the end. If you're a critic of Hamilton, you honestly can't question that. Campy, your thoughts on Lewis Hamilton and, what is the future for him?
Oh, he sticks around. He's going for 8. Possibly 9. He's not going anywhere. Not next year. Not with the regs. He's going to still be in the quickest car. He hasn't lost the fight to win either. But his drive this weekend particularly was just incredible. I mean, the patience in which he drove that race. He stuck up behind Sebastian Vettel for a long time. And the race just came to him. That just came with experience. He knew the track was getting better and better every lap. There was no rain on the forecast, but the way Matt used those tyres to his advantage, and they ultimately turned into slicks, and he could...
He's a better manufacturer than Pirelli at the moment.
Absolutely. I mean, you cannot take anything away from the guy for his on-track performances, because he is a superstar. I think one stage he was 25, 26 seconds behind, ended up winning by 30. So that's a big turnaround in F1. But the maturity of the drive too, he let the race come to him. He didn't push when he had to. He didn't do a Max Verstappen and get, Max had the hurry up on. He thought, I have to get out in front and dominate this race from day one, from moment one, as soon as he could. And he stuffed it 2 or 3 times. But when the opportunities provided themselves to Lewis, he came through and drove a spectacular race. And he's a 7-time world championship now, and he's got a better record than anyone else ever driven. And good on him. Good on him. He's good. I mean, if most people were in that car, I watched a race with 2 friends last night, and there was some heated discussions going on about he's never really had a teammate that's been able to push him like a Daniel Ricciardo versus Max Verstappen type turnout. And those discussions are out there because this is F1. It is our sport.
Yeah.
You put most guys in that car and they're going to win 8 world championships as well. But I think he's genuinely can't take anything away from him.
Well, you have to look at this race in particular, and yes, you can say it's all about the car, but the exact other car was 14th this weekend in really tricky conditions. And not to take anything away from Valtteri Bottas, but it just says, yes, the haters can come out and say he's had the best car, all that sort of other stuff, and that's very true. But don't forget there was a period, he hasn't won all of these on the trot. There was a period there between his first year at McLaren and then claiming his second one with Mercedes where he wasn't winning in the Red Bull dominant era, and he was still performing pretty well. Tommy T, your thoughts on Lewis Hamilton's 7th title?
I think, kind of touching on what Campy said, he's opportunistic, and I don't think we've seen a driver as good as him mid-race making decisions outside of help from the pit wall. Like, he makes his race decisions almost better than any other driver on track.
Yep.
To reject what the pit wall's saying is pretty risky a lot of the time because they've got all the information, all the data sitting there, and he's making these calls going, nah, I'm riding this out. I can feel what this tyre's doing. I can see what's happening around me. Which is amazing. Like, there's not many drivers that have done that, and it just shows because it really paid off for him multiple times this year, especially yesterday. And yesterday, he wasn't in the best car. There was 2 manufacturers better than him in Racing Point and Red Bull. So he was in the 3rd best car. He should have been 5th or 6th, and he won. So can't take anything away.
It was a mega drive, and of course we'll talk about the race a little bit more in just a moment, boys. Before we get into that, though, there's a few things that have happened before between our last podcast and this one. The announcement of another unnecessary Arabian track, this time Jeddah, Saudi Arabia.
Oh, jeez.
It'd be interesting to see the W Series race there, if they're allowed to. Oh, no, they are now, so that's only a recent thing. But and if you don't know what I'm talking about, geez, just Google, please, because this is an absolute joke of Formula One. You cannot tell me that after all of these, yes, the money is a big thing, but after all of these wonderful old tracks that we have been to, that you go, you know what we need? More money, let's go to a new track. If you'd actually asked some of the older tracks or some kind of organisation or sponsor or something else to get behind something like Portimao or even Turkey or Imola or any of the new ones that we've gone to this year, so long as it's not Sochi, let's just remove Sochi completely from the calendar and everyone will be happy about that. Tell me, boys, that this is a good idea, because I genuinely think it's the most stupid idea I've heard from Formula One this year. And that's, that's including the let's cancel the Australian Grand Prix with the fans trackside.
With minutes to go.
Unbelievable.
I mean, why? I don't think there's going to be fans there like us. It's going to be corporate. So that's the first problem I see. It's not an exciting track. I don't know why we're going there. It doesn't really have anything to do with F1 other than just money.
Yep. That's exactly it. It's literally just money. And we have seen tracks like Abu Dhabi be incredibly boring because they're just about money. For me, the end of the Formula One World Championship is always in Brazil, and Abu Dhabi is like the bonus race where whoever gets announced to go and test the car for next year.
No one wants to go to.
And no one wants to go to, as you said, Campy, a couple of weeks ago. Sorry, no, go on, Campy.
No, politically it's left egg on F1's face.
Yep.
Because there's been some outrage in the public about their human rights history. I don't know anything about it. Not that they have human rights over there. That's about all I know. No, but
You're right.
This year they've taken a tact and they've gone to do the social diversity thing, which is fine. That's their prerogative to do so. As a fan, I wish they kept politics and all that social stuff out of sport and let the sport be the bridge that it needs to be in the particular areas that they go. That's how I personally think the sport should work. But now they're going to make a decision like this, and we know it's about money, and they're getting some backlash. They can't have their cake and eat it too. They can't sit here and try and be the moral high ground for all of society and then laugh in the face at the business that they do, not with Saudi Arabia, with many other countries on the grid, USA and China included in that, and the dumb shit that they do around the world. No, but
you're right.
You're so right.
But when it comes down to what we want as fans, we don't want to see that crap. And when they make decisions like this, they open themselves up to be an issue. Now, they've taken the tact, and Chase Carey came out and said, we think the sport needs to be a bridge. But unfortunately, you can't call the other stuff out and not call this stuff out. These people need to grow some fucking spines, because people aren't stupid. They ain't buying your Kool-Aid that you're trying to sell us. We have brains. We have an understanding of what's going on in the world. Don't lie to us. Be honest. This is a commercial and it's a monetary thing to these people. The fans come second to all of that sort of stuff, and this decision that they've made is utterly stupid. Sort your shit out, Chase Carey. I thought you've done a pretty good job this year.
100%.
But this decision you've made as the last thing that you're going to be remembered before you step down from your role at the moment just says to me what the sport's really about, and we all know that now. And we, as fans, will still enjoy it, but just shut up. No one wants to hear about how you think we should do life.
We don't need another street circuit, to be fair. And, yes, it's from a business point of view, Formula One is hurting this year. They haven't been able to charge nearly the normal amount of money they normally charge tracks. But you know what? Who cares? Like, seriously, guys, you have had so much money for so long, and all of the stuff, the goodwill from the Bernie era that was bought in by Liberty Media. Look, Dominicali, this is our call to you. Cancel that track before it's even happened. And it doesn't even look like we're going to Hanoi. It doesn't even look like Vietnam's going to be a track. No. So the people who made poorly Formula One 2020, to be very pissed that their hard work for that track no longer exists.
Which on the racing games looks like a cracking track, looks like a driver's circuit.
It's going to be fun.
It really does.
Why they would choose to get rid of that, we don't know. There could be some issues with the Vietnamese government. We're not too sure, but
Because Albon's not going to be in the sport.
Hedging their bets.
Sort it out.
Yeah, it doesn't bode well with us, and there's a lot of pressure on people now. Like Lewis Hamilton are receiving a lot of pressure from the media saying you need to call this stuff out. You can't. It has to be all or nothing, and he doesn't need that. You know, his cause is significant enough. This is a silly decision that wasn't even on everyone's radar up until 2 weeks ago, and then suddenly everyone's like, "Surprise, we're going to Jeddah!" And everyone's like, "What?
Worst surprise ever." No thanks.
Yeah, put it back. Take it back to the shops. Get a refund. I'm not even interested. All
Sorry,
right,
lads, I'm having some technical difficulties. I'll just change my headphones over.
Let's while Campy's enjoying his technical difficulties, like last week, and apologies for last weekend, I should say, his podcast. If you had some poor audio quality while he's not listening, he's got his headphones out. That's all his fault. Nothing to do with me. I did my best to make it sound as good as I could.
I saved it by saving the video.
Oh, I tell you what, we almost had to redo that entire podcast, but that's okay because he's back. He's got headphones. Let's talk about Tommy T. The fact that Binotto. Mate, you are beautiful. You look
so
more you
great.
than you ever been. Maybe you're born with it, or maybe it's Maybelline. It's definitely not that. Guys,
I'm a stud. That's my missus.
Ferrari did well this weekend, and that's because Binotto wasn't there.
Well, he got lost.
He did. We couldn't find him ahead of the weekend, which is a fantastic result. Seriously though, this has been an interesting move by him. He's obviously wanted some leave, and that's fair enough. It's also
working hard.
It's also the only race that I've heard team radio between Seb and his engineer that actually sounded pretty jovial and pretty chilled at the end of the race. I don't know if you heard, but Seb said to his race engineer, "Did you see the start?" And the race engineer was like, "Yeah, man, that was cool. Like, it was really good." I'm like, "My goodness, there's actually a personality on the end of this microphone. Unbelievable. They're not just checking everything all the bloody time." But the one thing I want to discuss about Binotto for this weekend, guys, and in the lead up to this race, is the news that a couple of weekends ago, we were talking about Haas and how they might have two brand new Ferrari juniors in those seats. And it looks like that's not going to be the case. And there's reports going around that Binotto is saying there's only spot for one Ferrari junior in Formula One next year. Now, my money's on Mick Schumacher going to Haas.
Yep.
But what it does do, compared to our last podcast, is it opens up the ability for Checo and for Hülkenberg to be back in Formula One for 2021.
Good.
Which is great.
Both of them should be in the sport. It'd be ridiculous if we got an influx of young talent over that.
And especially considering the performance of Checo for this weekend. But Tommy T, you're still betting on Checo Perez going to Red Bull.
I think he's a good teammate for Max. I think he's going to do exactly what we want from Red Bull. He's going to give those... Well, we saw Albon in those situations, say, this week, where he was kind of coming from behind, he was rear gunning. Perez is going to be perfect for that. We know he's good on tyres, on those alternate strategies. That's exactly what Red Bull's going to want. They don't necessarily need... I mean, Hulk could be great at that too, but they don't need another A driver. Perez is a really good alternate B+ kind of driver, just doing different stuff. So I reckon that'd be a perfect complement to Max.
Yeah, to be honest, I think this weekend he was almost A- with how he managed those tyres. Interesting stat I heard this morning as well. He is the only driver, apart from the person who won a world championship on the grid, that has scored a point in every race that he has started. Isn't that a genuinely amazing statistic? That it's just he and Lewis Hamilton have scored a point in every race that he has started. Incredible.
This year.
Incredible.
This year.
Incredible.
This year.
Yeah. Incredible. But like, you think about the rest of the field and everything else that's going on. This is a guy who's consistent.
Yeah.
So, Campy, Hulk.
I heard some. No, not. I heard some rumours about Red Bull actually.
Yep.
Red Bull's actually Thai owned. A lot of it's Thai owned outside of Dietrich, Massachusetts. So, there is some weight to the credibility that Albon might stay on next year, which I totally don't understand. We've spoke about that at length, but Hulk, I think we need to see him in the sport. He'd be great at a Haas, and he'd also be great at a Red Bull. It's just whatever team is going to actually take him. And we don't know what that team will be, but we wait wholeheartedly on those decisions. I don't think it would be smart to get 2 first-year drivers into a team like Haas, and the 2 positions are really between Mick Schumacher and Callum Ilott. I don't think we need to rush Mick Schumacher into F1 next year. He's got to drive at some stage.
Yep.
I mean, the championship over there's been pretty inconsistent from both drivers at times. Mick Schumacher's start to the year was terrible. I think after the first 3 races he didn't have any points, but then he's picked it up. Whereas Callum Ilott's had some things not go his way, which has made him second in the championship, but that's motorsport sometimes. I think over the course of the whole year, I think you'd take Ilott over Schumacher, but this is Mick Schumacher, and he will get a spot in F1, so we'll see what happens. And we wait with a bit of anticipation, really, but Hulk will be a good mentor / measuring stick for both those guys when they step into F1.
Yep, you're not wrong. And I think, as I said on the chat for the Discord channel, that Joss and Max Verstappen have been hinting at Hulkenberg because of some ties there, which is great for him too. So he's still relevant, right?
That's probably they would probably prefer Hulk to Sergio.
Yeah, and that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. All right, boys. Well, we started this new part of the podcast last time around. This time around, we got a question from Glenn for the listener question for the boys. Glenn asks, there are rumours that each season may have a couple of one-off races that aren't always on the standard calendar. What are your views on there being a rotating door of different feature races each year? And it helps to spice up the action and shake up the calendar. Well, we sort of just spoke a little bit about that, didn't we, in talking about Jeddah and how good this year has been. But to Glenn's question, Campy, this year has almost been that exciting revolving door of random tracks thrown in. What are your views on that being the norm going forward?
Well, they've done it previously with the European GP, taking place at various tracks like that. So it's something they've tried before. I just think I would like to see it as a fan, want to see it. I just don't think it works in the sense moving forward from a monetary perspective about the way that F1 runs as an organisation like that. For a track to be an F1 accredited track, you actually need a lot of investment to keep them up to scratch to the current regulations and safety procedures that they put in. And I just think for a track to do something once every 5 years, it's probably not worth the money. This year's been good in the sense that we've had the chance to go and race at some of these tracks, and we've had some incredible racing. I think Mugello, we should see Mugello every year. I think that should be a staple. But whether or not you take that away from Monza, I mean, now we're getting into which country gets... It is a global sport. Do you want a country to have 3 or 4 races because they do have amazing tracks and then take away some of the opportunities from the other... like Azerbaijan, what a great track.
Like Sydney Motorsport Park. What a great track.
Totally. So I don't think I'd like to see it.
They've got lights that work now.
I don't like to see it, but I think it's going to work. And, mate, F1's never moving from Melbourne. Not a chance.
If you're an Australian, you follow along to V8 Supercars, we've cancelled Adelaide completely now. So there you go. Tommy T, what are your views on having an open door calendar?
Oh, I kind of like it. I think what you'll see is countries or cities really save up their money and put a big bid on for 1 year. And they go, we're going wholehearted. We know we can't get it all the time. We don't have enough money to do that. But we do have a track that's serviceable, that ticks all those boxes, like Campy said. And they'll load up and they'll try and do one race every 5 years. Something like that.
Yeah.
Could be really interesting. And then that keeps it interesting. We've got this kind of one wild card race every year that's just to the highest bidder. And it just keeps it spicy.
And indeed, for this next season, 2021, the calendar has been announced. TBC is on there as around race 4. Who knows where? We know that it's not Vietnam that we're going to. So, look, one of these tracks this year, it could even be Turkey, one of these tracks this year that it's come to the floor might be able to get some money together for next year. But, Glenn, thanks very much for your question.
Turkey's surface would be good by then.
Maybe after 364 days of running rental cars over it only at night time. But thanks for your question, mate. If you want to ask us a question, please feel free to write us in or DM on Instagram. We'll put in the podcast. All right, well, it's my favourite part of this podcast and Campy's least favourite part of the podcast. It's Tommy T's television broadcast review. Tommy T, what are your thoughts for this weekend?
Well, firstly, we had a lot of Karoon talking about nothing.
He was shocking.
It was horrible.
He's talking about qualifying. I couldn't even figure out what series he was talking about. I think he's making them up. I think this is his own personal joke, and he's trying to see what he can get past us. He's making up random series of racing that just don't exist. Just waffling on. Anyway, that's standard Karoon. This is what happens when they put him in that Skypad kind of race review role. He just feels like he's got some information to give across, and it's all useless. We had Ted with the line of the race. With Slippy McSlipface. And then he made a call about Max Verstappen being about 52 years out on the track. He had some rippers.
He was on fire today. That was great.
Fire.
Yeah.
Good boy, Ted.
Can we
I'll
mention that?
Hand over to James for the flyover.
Yeah.
A ripping flyover.
How good was that?
Ted, I will pick you up. It's an F16, not an F18.
Yeah, 16. I was going to say.
What did he say?
F18. But you know what? He was only 2 numbers away, so I'll relieve him of that. But if you haven't seen this, head on to the Oz F1 Twitter. We retweeted the jet really coming out of nowhere at very, very high speeds, very close to the sound barrier, to scare the living crap out of all of the Formula 1 drivers on the grid, including our boy Danny Rick. But all of them were like,
They're all
just
dark.
it's incredible. Love the fun.
And then proceeded to do about 20 minutes of flying.
Incredible.
Really low.
Incredible. There was
Just
people on
like-
Twitter saying, can this plane piss off? And I was like, can you piss
me?
off? This was, honestly, whoever this pilot was, mate, 10 out of 10. Seriously, incredible
See
talent.
this spot here? That's
Zero
empty?
fear.
We want you on the podcast, right?
Zero
there.
fear. Yep. Call us 1-300 Oz F1. That
we'll
works
put
in
you in.
every country.
Yeah.
I got the feeling he's one of those guys that got the opportunity to do like 5 minutes. He's like, nah, fuck this, I'm doing 15.
What are you going to do? Shoot me down?
Oh, how good would it? Oh,
Yeah, it
that
was-
was brilliant.
It was
Very
solid.
good.
And we'll rate the anthem, Campy, this week. Your rating of opera out of 10?
Oh, mate, I think the Russian anthem this year, 12 Guys a cappella, was beautiful, followed closely by the Italian one. Oh, mate, I think some of the national anthems we've heard this year have been the worst of all time. But this weekend was pretty good. I enjoy it. Like, I'm a muso, I'm into that stuff. But it was probably the second best anthem of the year for me.
Second best.
Yeah, Russian was the best, then the Turkish one, that was good, then I'll put the Italian one behind that. Just
At
purely
one
'cause
point, it looked like he
Italian.
was lip syncing because the camera was just so far out of sync with the what he was singing. So maybe he was controversy, but no, yeah, epic
It
weekend.
was good. I reckon let's give it an 8 out of 10. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
I have to be honest though. I am genuinely sick of radio calls over Ted. Let's just make a pact now, right? I don't care what team radio it is. I don't care if it's Lewis Hamilton saying my engine has exploded. If Ted has got something
Nothing
to
is
report,
more interesting.
that is what I want to hear. I don't want to hear anything else. There's no 2 secs, Ted. Just put it up on text on the screen. Leave it with that, right?
Yeah.
Incredible stuff from Ted this weekend. I want to see more, and maybe him going into Uphill at the end of the season.
Bring a kiddie pool to the Oz GP next
there you
year.
go.
Make him jump in it.
There you go. So solid 8 out of 10 for the TV review. Fantastic. Boys, the other news that we've got is the W Series has been announced, which is a female-only Formula 3 event. They're doing 8 support races over this next calendar, I should say. We've also seen Formula 2 and Formula 3 split. And they're not all sharing the same tracks for next year. I think it looks like a bit of a silly idea, to be honest. It's all about cost saving. But we're missing some epic tracks from both of these calendars. For example, one series is going to Spa and the other one's not. One's going to Monza, the other's not. Stupid idea. But genuinely, I'm excited for the W Series because it's something that I think really needs to happen and have an opportunity and just put all the naysayers to bed. But more racing, boys. More racing on a weekend.
I'm
That's
not
what I
an
want to see.
accountant, but how does that save money going to different races?
So the thought process is Formula 2 and 3 teams run 2 different cars, right? So 2 different teams.
Yeah.
But
And they're
not
limited
everyone.
They're limited on personnel for each team as well.
Right.
I think F2 is 12 personnel and F2 is 12 personnel, F3 is 8 or 10. And you get a lot of crossover between the two as well. Right.
So in one of the good points from Karun this weekend, he did say quite correctly that engineers get cars to work on. It's like one car. So this is your F2 car for the year. Yep, no worries. This is your F3 car for the year. Yep, no worries. There's not really a lot of crossover except for maybe tyre mechanics, fuel, truckies, background maintenance, that sort of stuff. So in the actual specifics of it, I'm not sure it's going to have the intended outcome.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I wanted to note was Oscar Piastri has been testing a 2018 RS18 Renault Formula One car, which is very, very good. He had a great time and it looked like he had a lot of fun, but also he was performing. He hasn't announced for F3. He wasn't testing for F3 for this year. So all things would be pointing that he's going to Formula 2 for next year. Not that that's been announced, but that's very exciting for us.
He'll have Renault backing too.
Yeah.
In that particular test, Guangzhou, I think, did 180 or 500 kilometres so he could get his super licence as well.
Yeah.
So Guangzhou looks like he's got a Renault seat pretty much locked in the future if Ocon doesn't perform next year.
Yeah, and he's a good driver. Like if you've seen him in F2, it's like, dude, you're actually performing.
He's had some results.
Yeah. It's not consistent, but like to be honest, no one in Formula 2 is being consistent at the moment. So interesting to see what Oscar does for next year. So I hope that's a thing. But yet the W Series is coming to Formula 1 to support races. I'm very excited about that. That is awesome. All right, boys, let's talk about the race itself, the Turkish Grand Prix. Driver of the day. Tommy T, your driver of the day.
I'm going to go Seb.
Good. Tommy T. I've done you. Campy.
I've already been.
I would have given it to Leclerc if he didn't bin it on the last lap. So, no, because you think about Leclerc's
he had a great
start.
race, yeah.
You think about his start, he was way back in like 17th or 18th and drove the wheels off that thing, mate. I mean, he made Sebastian Vettel look second rate again, but he binned it in the last lap, so I'm giving it to Seb.
Yeah, I'm giving it to Seb too. That opening lap from him was magnificent.
Set him up for the whole race.
Yeah, and Charles' radio at the end, he was like, it's like a roller coaster, but it's very high. It's like he was going through the Ferrari World at Abu Dhabi roller coaster. He was like, I'm so stupid, but well done for Seb. He's had a really bad year and I'm glad that he's happy again, but I'm really angry with myself and I'm so stupid, but well done for the team. So his maturity's come a long way from back in the early days. But so funny is like, and then because you could see him coming through turn one, and he was just like banging the steering wheel. He'd come off into the pit lane kind of exit area. Anyway, so Seb, good. He also got driver of the day for the entire race as well, which is fantastic. All right, let's talk about qualifying before we get into the actual race, because there was a big incident that Michael Massey needs to talk to us about, because the cars were released in Q2 while there was still a crane on the track. And of course, 2014, Jules Bianchi did not go well, and of course, a really sad moment for the sport. People like Marcus Ericsson were tweeting saying, seriously, guys, have we not learnt from this? Now, Massey's come out to say that the trackside marshals have said that they were clearing the truck away, so they were going to move, so they let the cars out. Then suddenly that didn't happen. Just wasn't okay. It wasn't sat. We've seen 2 instances of race control releasing cars in an unsafe manner with marshals on the track. These guys are volunteers and, generally people too, so not really a good idea to do that. It was a bit of a bad weekend for them, and they wanted to push all of the decision-making to the end of the qualifying or the end of the race. Campy?
Look, 99 times out of 100, things aren't going to happen. It's the one time that it does, where you have incidents like your Jules Bianchi, which is super tragic. And we've F1 gets this stuff right all the time. Traditionally, when they make changes, they get it right. This year, they have stuffed a lot of these little things up that they consistently get right over the year. I know there's some circumstances, but not good enough. Sorted out.
Yeah,
Michael Massey's been a dud this year. Absolute dud. He should be my whipping boy because, look, as a fan, we want to see some consistency. I know they were rushing because they had a small window to get qualifying done because they could see the weather, they could see what was gonna happen, and all the drivers came back in and said that was pretty sketchy. Yeah. That was, I think under the last guy, his name eludes me at the moment. Charlie Whiting, he would have just called he would have called it off and said we'll just do it tomorrow. That's the experience we just get. But I mean, you still got to have some trust in him, but just get it right, figure it out. Yeah. Next year, you're going to have to come out and have a zero mistake all year. We want consistency in this. I mean, I don't love the safety aspects like the halo and stuff, but doesn't really affect the on-track racing, does it? So
no, we move
forward.
We moved pretty quickly past Halo, didn't we? I think everyone got over it. Tommy T?
Yep.
I just think it's inexcusable. Obvious. There's a crane on. Don't release.
Yeah.
They were sitting there. There was no need to release. I don't know. It just seemed really stupid and kind of something that they should come out about and go, hand up, we stuffed up here. Because what they're not doing all year is admitting their fault, which makes people angrier. If they go, you know what, we missed one, we really stuffed this up, we'd probably let some of the other stuff go. But because it's constant, little things all the time that we can't figure out, they won't explain why.
Yeah,
we're just getting more frustrated. The drivers are getting frustrated, and the fans are probably more frustrated than the drivers.
Massey did say that he, if he did it again, he probably wouldn't have done it that way. But it's like, mate, just don't do it to begin with.
You definitely shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Well, even the Lando kind of penalty was very very, very odd ruling.
Because Lance Stroll got
Stroll
off
did the same thing.
Right. Yeah.
Very, very interesting. But just how that came out, apparently it's a very, very, very minor subsection of the rules. But you don't get that explained to us. So we're kind of confused and just like, are you guys just following your own rules and making it up as you go along? Or is there some kind of rule book back there that you're following, is what we feel like.
But it's like Max Verstappen leaving the pits. We'll investigate this after the race.
Yeah. Do it now.
He crossed the white line. It's like, well, hang on a minute. There is a rule there in place that when you exit the pits, you don't cross the white line.
Yeah.
Does it have an effect on the race 99% of the time? Absolutely not. But there's a rule there for some reason because of safety.
Yeah.
Now, Max clearly drove over the line, and why they said, we'll do it after the race, I think it's a dumb thing anyway. It didn't affect anything. Don't penalise him as a fan, but I want consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He clearly ran over the line, so give him his freaking penalty.
Yeah.
Well, our starting grid wasn't up till 90 minutes before the race because we didn't know how many penalties had to shuffle out because of people improving on yellow flags, all these kind of things that were happening. 90 minutes before a race is not good enough to get our starting grid.
Yeah,
look, boys, I reckon we raid the judicials box at the AusGP next year.
And
Go
you
take over for the day. See what happens.
Race director Campy, I'm here for that. Hello.
Start a coup. Hamilton, you're a dickhead to the back.
Black and white flag, Lewis Hamilton.
Just blue flag from the start.
Look, just disappointing, to be honest. We expect a hell of a lot more from these officials. And look, we're not saying it's easy. We're not. But you're in the public domain. This is the public domain, and we're criticising you. Don't do it again. Be better. Yeah. It's not hard.
Be better, and we won't
better.
have to do this.
Be better. That's all we want. All right, boys, let's talk about our team-by-team analysis, as we always do. This time, I'm going to start with the double DNF of our favourite drivers who are not going to be in Formula 1 next year. It's Haas, K-Mag and Grosjean. However,
K-Mag sucking in qualifying.
Didn't cause any safety cars. There were 0 safety cars for this race. These guys, both DNF, they could have crashed into Lewis or someone else or had some kind of massive effect on it. K-Mag, we're relying on you, mate. This is what we wanted from you from later in the year.
Which one broke down in the pit lane? You could have just kept going.
K-Mag.
Exactly.
Just finish on the track, dude.
It doesn't matter if your tyre's not on properly. Just go around the corner and just beat yourself. Yeah, go and find some rocks and beat yourself into
and
it.
just cause trouble.
Anyway, Haas, terrible
Grosjean
weekend.
spun at least twice, I believe. There could possibly be a third, which I'm forgetting about.
Genuinely underrated part of Turkey is that you can spin and not hit walls.
That
it's
is
a
true.
big enough track. It's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
or you spin on your way to the start line and then you have to get a truck to come and get you. Giovinazzi, but at least you're good enough to stay around next year. Haas, just disappointing. The boys, obviously, everyone's just disappointed that whole thing. Gunter must be gritting his teeth, as you said last time, Campy, to just see out the rest of the year and move on for the next regulations and have a new motor that it's actually any good. Williams, my favourite Canadian on the grid, getting lapped twice is like no classification. As soon as if you're lapped more than once, that's it. You should retire. That should be a rule because just get out of the way. You're seriously not having a good time.
I thought we were about sustainability. You're just burning fuel. Get on.
There you go. Eventually, after he tangled with Grosjean, I was like, oh, safety car? No, nothing, because they didn't hit each other hard enough to put some debris on the track.
Come on.
Unbelievable. But seriously, George didn't get out of Q1. Wasn't
George
his
started
weekend,
on the
but
Inters. That was his kind of secret weapon.
from the pit lane.
Russell ran in P11 for a long time, and then
He did.
Then he had to pit.
Mid-pack just swamped him.
Yeah, there was a lot of whomping going on.
What do you think about that starting from the pit lane? That was a choice. More than anything.
Yeah, well, it's better than starting from the back, isn't it? It's basically the same thing. Same thing. Sure, isn't it?
Except you got tyre blankets on, I guess, and
Yeah,
you
correct.
dry
Yeah, you got tyre choice then.
Look, he was always going to catch up just as quick as he was if he started at the back or not, so it doesn't really matter, does it?
Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah,
They
and
should
you
just do that every race and go,
But
you
you
know
could-
what?
Is that because
easier.
is that because he changed his tyres on his from in
Correct.
between the out?
Well, no,
lap
because he
and-
had that time of finding the
Oh,
wall.
yeah,
he was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Hello."
Sorry, the spin.
That's
Yeah, I
two
know.
races in a row. At least he's consistent.
Yeah,
Found it.
he's making some rookie errors at the moment, but he's all right.
Yeah, we'll get
He's
there.
all right.
He'll get there. We like Georgie boy.
Hey, he's only racing around cars for like 3 races now, and he's making mistakes. So
Something around
he's
traffic.
had 15 where he's just been testing for 3 years.
Just permanent blue flags. Poor guy.
That's so funny. I look forward to when he's up the front finally and he's overtaking someone, sees a blue flag rather, and just slows and pulls his like, "Well, hang on, that's not for me.
It's not for me anymore.
It's not for me." Hooray!
Like Lewis when he went into McLaren's
Oh yes, that's one of my favourite
gone
videos to watch.
Mercedes.
He comes in, he's like, "Oh, no, I'm not in this team anymore. Sorry." Moving right along. Alfa Romeo.
good.
Hey, I was disappointed with Kimi this weekend. I thought these conditions, like, it would be meant for him, and he was going to be on
was good in
fire to
qualifying.
see himself all the way through. He ended up in 15th, which was almost the back of the. In fact, it was the back of the people. Sorry, ahead of George. But come on, Kimi, well, you're better than this.
This race is a tale of 2 races, really, like the first half and the second half. First half, the conditions were so bad.
True wet.
And the cars were fairly even. The only cars that were out in front were the Racing Points because they could warm their tyres up.
Yep.
Every other car couldn't warm their tyres up.
No, that's true.
So you saw these star drivers like you said and your Kimmys running up in the top 10s. But the second half of the race, when these cars turned on, you saw the Renaults that was crap this weekend drop back, and teams like your Alfa Romeos and your Kimmys just didn't have any pace in the car.
James sent this to the
in the
Discord. He was
second
like,
half.
those Ferrari powered cars are really good because they can't spin their wheels in the wet. They couldn't spin, so they were fine.
Not enough torque.
Exactly, they were ripping.
How was Kimi, though, going out of, like, there's a slight right kink up to 3, is it? In qualifying when he was getting out, like just after the red flag, everyone's trying to get out again. He was like sideways this way, and then he came back. He was like facing the right direction again. I was like,
How did you do
what's
that?
this guy doing? Like, it's like ridiculous speeds, and it was probably just like with a pinky doing that. In fact, when Max spun during the race, I always was expecting him to do the Hockenheim thing of like the full
just keep
360.
going.
Like, I'm still on it. Anyway,
Wow.
yeah.
Well, he did that in Brazil 2 or 3 years
done it a
ago as
few
well.
times.
Remember?
Oh,
He spun on the front straight and didn't hit a wall.
Well,
Yeah,
even his
that's
spin
right.
with
Incredible.
Perez, he bloody kept that out of a wall. He was going fast there. I don't know how he did it.
Yeah.
We'll get
Ridiculous.
onto him in a second, but Giovinazzi obviously found the wall ahead of his timeout and just wasn't having a good weekend. But he's got a little bit more breathing room ahead of this time next year, where I'm sure he won't be confirmed for the following year. AlphaTauri did not have a good weekend. Pierre Gasly just couldn't put it together at all. He finished in 13th. Danny Kvyat finishing ahead in 12th. No points. This is definitely the tale of watching how specific cars do on specific circuits. Campy, your favourite tale to tell. And they just weren't able to string it together, were they?
This is my frustration with Kvyat. He gets the job done over Gasly on tracks that
Yeah.
they score no points, so he doesn't get any recognition
Yeah.
for it. You know, I mean, I think Gasly's been the better driver all year. But when Kvyat does get the job done, for
still doesn't
whatever
score.
reason, he just doesn't score points and he doesn't get the kudos he deserves. So good on Kvyat. He's, I mean, it's a bit like, it's 60% of the time Gasly's going to get the job done, but that other 40%, Kvyat's right there. So anyway,
No, very.
they showed us zero this weekend.
Yeah, it was a bit of a nothing result, almost like Renault. DR, our boy, finishing in 10th. He had a spin next to Lando, and I was like, Lando, if you've caused him to spin properly and touched him, you're going in the bad books. He didn't. He was just under pressure there. But this car did not suit this circuit at all, did it? We know they're very good on their
qualified
tyres.
okay, but yeah, it just couldn't hang on to those tyres.
His interviews after qualifying, he was like, man, Jesus, that takes some days off my life. I tell you what, like, it was good for the fans, but whew, I am bloody terrified / exhausted. I don't know if you saw their hands after the races. They had bruising all the way through their thumbs and across their forefinger. Like, it was significant. Incredible. But Danny Rick, though, in the McLaren, next year, similar kind of thing, if we ever see it again, he'd be able to have a better time because they looked better. But Ocon, he's kind of nowhere this weekend as well. Sometimes he was at the top of the timing chart and then the whole track would evolve again and he'd be pushed down towards the middle. Pretty unfortunate for him, really.
Well, Ocon had the better of Danny Rick all weekend, except when it came to Q3, and Danny Rick pulled it out of the hat and qualified fifth.
Yeah.
Danny Rick's start was unbelievable.
Then he just got caught in traffic.
If he'd gone the other direction, he would have been P2. Yep.
No, well, Max couldn't. Max was sliding to the right, so he was so close to Perez that Danny Rick had to get off the accelerator, and then when he got back on it, got bogged down. Yeah. But how was Hamilton's move on Danny Rick? He saw that apex and just thought, I'm just beeline for that. And
and that's what got Ocon.
It was poetry in motion, really. I mean, you could see it from so way back, and unfortunately for Danny Rick, that Renault, as the track changed, he had zero pace.
Yeah.
I think the first half of this race, he drove spectacularly to keep it within Hamilton and
Seb
and Seb. But again, Renault's strategy was 2 laps too late.
Yeah.
He lost like 8 seconds to Leclerc.
Yep.
And Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton just because he didn't get it right. Because the team didn't get it right. I give them some. They've got some credits in the bank. They've got a lot right this season. But this time, I think they were just a bit too late to react. They thought they had more time than they did. But that car, for Danny Rick to finish in the points, good result for him.
Yes.
But again,
not good for the constructors.
Well, this constructor's been thrown wide open now with Checo getting a podium. So I believe Racing Point is now in third, and Renault's still in second.
And
but
Ferrari's
McLaren
chasing for that third spot as well. I don't think they'll make it.
No, they won't make it.
Pretty interesting.
Bit of a shame for Renault this weekend.
Yeah.
But as we've seen, Danny Rick performs really well, gets a podium, has a race off, and comes back the week after. So next week,
high hopes for Bahrain.
we're looking the goods.
Yeah, I've got high hopes for Bahrain, especially the second iteration where we see that speed. I think he'll really put it on, and definitely with a chance for the podium there. But I have to say, McLaren was looking good, not from a point of view of looking at the paintwork of the car because there was so much mud on it, it turned into poo brown orange.
They were the car that suffered the most from the mud, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But honestly, mega drive from Carlos Sainz in fifth, finishing in fifth, Lando in eighth. That car looks pretty well put together. We know the chassis is strong, and obviously the power unit changing over for next year. We've said this time and time again, Danny Rick's going to have a good time with that Mercedes power, but this is one of the instances where you go, I'm happy that he's moving across with a car that's stronger and he can be a little bit braver in the car would respond, like we saw Carlos. And look, mega drive from Carlos. He displayed today why he is deserving of going to a team like Ferrari next year.
And they both started with grid penalties as well. They were well back.
Yeah, they were not anywhere near the front. Zachy Brown came on Twitter and said that he was very proud of them. So that means a lot. If Zach's happy, then everyone's happy. Your thoughts on McLaren, Tommy T? Sorry, Campy. That's the second time I've done that.
We don't even look the same.
Yeah. I know. I'm looking at you. I'm looking at Campy and then your name pops up. Good.
Look, Campy. Carlos's race was very similar to Lewis's. He just let the race come to them. In that second half of the race, that track and their car came to them, and you could see the moves that they made. After qualifying, they would have been really nervous going, geez, look at the Renault, top 7, 2 cars in the top 7. You've got your Racing Points in top 2, geez, this third place in the constructors could be looking way out of reach for us really quickly. But that car just came alive really for them. And another 2 or 3 laps, and Carlos probably would have ended up possibly on the podium.
Yeah.
That's how quick he was coming through. So, good to see from McLaren. Again, McLaren's strong part of the season was up from races like 4 to 9, where they got most of their points. But we haven't seen that car come back and perform on track the way it has since then, really.
Yeah, hanging for that Mercedes power unit. I reckon that'll do wonders.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
You're absolutely right.
Good on Danny Rick.
So let's talk about Red Bull first before we go through to the others. Max was on fire pretty much the entire weekend up until the very end, of course, in Q3. He was so dirty with himself, sitting by a bin. It's like, dude, you couldn't have chosen a better place to sit next to for all the memes, but well done you. But disappointed for him. This is certainly... Like he was pissed, right? He was pissed out of qualifying, and he carried that into the race. For me, if he was in a title contention, I think he would have driven this race incredibly differently. But this time, it's like I've got to show up, and it's all or nothing. It's literally all of my cards are on the table, or I'm going home. Which is why he did something as stupid as he did behind Checo. He didn't need to. He could have been a little bit patient, and he would have passed Checo eventually. You know, this is almost like Danny Rick and Kvyat in Azerbaijan, when it's like, Danny, if you just waited like half a lap, you would have been able to down the main straight. So that kind of patience. But I mean, that's where he's on, right? So he's driving. The dude is so talented. Like this guy is. I mean, everyone's praising Lewis. Yes, once Lewis leaves, Max is the driver of the next generation because his skill is incredible in this weather. And with the car underneath him to perform like Lewis, man, that's where it's coming next. But Tommy T, your thoughts on Max's performance?
I genuinely think he was the best driver. He was the fastest, let's put it that way. He wasn't the best because he stuffed up a lot. I think his qualifying was better than anyone else's. Unfortunately, he just didn't have the best lap in Q3. He was getting the most out of that track as it was developing. It got better and better and better and better. And Stroll just happened to be right place, right time. Same with Checo, I think. Because, to be honest, Max put in a more impressive lap when that track was wetter, I feel.
Ugh.
He was outstanding. His throttle control when that track was truly wet was way better than when it dried out and everyone was kind of having a bit more of a crack. So I think that kind of goes underrated, like how hard he was driving that car. He just couldn't put it together in Q3. I don't know if he had traffic or anything or there was a reason, but he still had a ripping lap. Just Stroll's was way better.
He had a couple of moments which sort of robbed him of a couple of tenths, but
but then his race, he just made those mistakes.
Yeah, I was going to say, Campy, it's very reminiscent of some early Max sort of attitude in terms of how he was driving.
He lacked patience. It was almost like, this is my time. I have to do it now. I have to make these moves happen now. But to his credit, I mean, he was driving behind Perez for 10 to 15 laps going, I'm getting sick of this. That move he made was ballsy.
Oh, yeah.
He almost pulled it off.
But he had to know that it was slippery out there. You have to know.
Again, I don't mind seeing that from Max. He's got nothing. He's not fighting. He doesn't care about podiums. He wants wins, and when it's there, he's going to drive like the clappers in order to get it. Unfortunately, a bit of patience the race would have come to him in the end. We saw how quick he was before. I mean, I think he did a 1:37, which was like 3 seconds faster than anyone else for the whole race. But then he caught up to his teammate and couldn't get past. So he had the pace to win this. I think he was gutted. But again, the car's so unpredictable on this track with conditions like this. I mean, you look at a couple of Valtteri spins. I was like, he did nothing wrong there. No. The car just went in. It wasn't set up. Just stepped out on him. Yeah. It's not that they did anything wrong. These things happen. I think Max forced his issues a lot more than what Valtteri did. But yeah, unfortunately for him, he'll get it. He'll pull it together. He'll be a world champion one day, and this will all be history.
What about Albon?
Yeah, it's we sort of said, if you're in our Discord chat, you know the moment where everyone was like, bye, Alex. It's just like, we were talking at the beginning of the race, whether or not a performance today would mean a securing of his seat. Now, with time investment aside for Red Bull, genuinely, I think they're going to want a faster driver that's going to be able to perform even with the money kind of thing. So take that out of it for the moment. There was a moment there where I was like, this race is coming to him. This is where we get to see his skill. This is where he's going to really prove to us to say, shut up, boys, you stupid Australian idiots who sit in your living rooms recording a podcast. You don't know how hard this is. This is how hard it is. But, as you just said, Campy, about VB, the car... Well, he didn't necessarily do anything wrong. His inters were going between being intermediates to slicks, and it just stepped the front, let go, and around he went. And genuinely, I think everyone was really sad. You even said at the beginning of the race that you really wanted this for Albon. You wanted a podium for him to prove that. I think
It was on the
does.
cards. Definitely.
Genuinely was. Once Max made that mistake, it was like, right, here we go.
Wide open.
The second Red Bull needs to be up there and on the podium. But yes, it was like, oh, Alex, please. I just want you so badly to do well, but you continue to break my heart. Campy, what did you think of his performance?
He was good all weekend. I mean, he qualified behind Max, but he qualified where he should have.
Yeah.
Start of the race, he got the start. He made all the passes that he needed to and put himself in a position to potentially get in control of that. Yeah, it's a shame.
Well, he was actually in a position to help the team.
Yeah.
Which was good.
And look, we don't like partying or celebrating these guys' failures.
No,
I mean,
far from it.
Except Ferrari, because we hate Ferrari, and when they fail, it's awesome. But
Good.
you know, we don't want to see these guys fail. We want to see them perform.
Yep.
I love nothing more than the underdog getting up and giving everyone the big finger, saying, "No, I've got this. F you."
It's very Australian of you.
Yeah, totally. But it's just a shame. It's just a shame. He's had his shot, though.
Yeah.
He's had 18 months. And, you know, you look at guys like Hulk who have had 10 years and never really performed or got the podiums that they should have got because they haven't made the most of their opportunities. Albon's had 18 months in the second best car on the grid and one podium to show for it. Unfortunately, it's just not good enough.
Yeah, interesting. They're pushing the decision right back to the very end of the season. So maybe it is that time investment, as you said, Campy, that's coming into play.
The other thing is too is that Red Bull are very. I think they're very aware with the decision they made with Gasly.
Yeah.
That the impact that it actually had on. And the psychology of the young driver as well. In a perfect world, they would never have moved Gasly up when they did.
Yeah.
But out of necessity, they had to because, I mean, Gasly was racing Hartley and those two weren't setting the world alight.
No.
So I think when they've done this with Albon, they've actually made a decision behind closed doors like, right, we're not going to shaft this guy publicly anyway. We're not going to do what we did to him with Gasly. You know, we need to give him the shot that he deserves. 18 months in a top team, you haven't, I mean, demoted or goes from the sport, who knows? But they're not going to do it in a way that, you know, shoots the guy in the head publicly.
Imagine if they put Brendan Hartley in that seat instead of Gasly. Because he was just suffering because the car was pretty crap. But because the car wasn't what he was used to. But maybe the Red Bull being different from the Toro Rosso would perform well. He's just a really lovely guy. Yeah. Just Brendan Hartley's just a dude.
Maybe Hartley would have outperformed all of them in that top car and got extracted pace out of it because of experience, because of his experience in other categories and the caliber driver he is, but he never got the chance.
No, but having a New Zealand on the grid would have been choice as, bro.
Oh, choice, bro.
Let's talk about Ferrari.
Bucket or a hoosh, bro.
Good. Welcome to NZF1.
Josh Revel, that guy's a star. Check him out on YouTube. Josh Revel. Best Kiwi in F1. His YouTube videos are incredible.
Is that the first unpaid endorsement after Black and Gold sparkling water?
I'm a fan. I just like this stuff.
Yeah, it's good. There's so much out there. All right, let's talk about Ferrari because, Charles Leclerc was driving incredibly well up to the point where he wasn't, which was like 3 corners away from the finish line.
They cheated.
Of course they did, probably. No, they didn't because Bernardo wasn't there. They did. Allegedly.
Yeah, now he's got plausible deniability for their performance.
There it is.
I think the reason that Seb actually did well is because Bernardo wasn't standing behind all of Seb's engineers like, don't you dare.
Yeah, just
stuffed up
unplugging
one of
things
his,
from the wall.
They still stuffed up one of his pit stops. I feel like they just held it there for a second. They're like,
No, it was the guy at the back who had the little trolley thing at the back. He didn't release it.
Yeah, the tyres.
He's on Bernardo's.
Allegedly. Alleged sabotage.
We all know it's true, but the first time when it was like, bam, in, out, 3 second stop, I was like, my goodness, Ferrari are actually backing this guy. And then the second stop, I was like, oh, never mind. They forgot which car it was coming in. The guy couldn't see the number quite properly. But seriously, though, both Charles and Seb outdrove that car this weekend. It was an incredibly quick car. It should have been towards mid-pack, but it was nice to see Seb's experience actually account for something. Now, he was gaining on Charles. He was definitely gaining on that racing point. and look, it was Checo's mistake coming out of that complex that allowed Leclerc to get past. But he, with his experience, played the correct line and the inside, waiting for him to be outbraked by Leclerc. And of course, old tyres, he locked it up, and Seb's like, hello.
Stephen Bradbury did.
Perfect. Unbelievable.
Straight through.
Stephen Bradbury.
There you go.
What a reference.
Sebastian Bradbury. If you want to
James,
change,
can you do some photoshopping after this and put
Gotta do
Seb's
that.
head on that?
Yes, I will actually. With my poor photoshopping skills.
Global viewers will have no idea what we're talking
Mate,
about.
everyone knows the only time Australia's ever really done anything that's not in snowboarding and Winter Olympics was Stephen Bradbury coming through and going, "G'day, blokes," and yeeting himself across the line and winning. That was
3 races in a row, people crashed, which in order for him to...
My man.
Did you know that?
Here's-
like the 2 previous races
Same
before
thing.
the final, people crashed so that he could even get into
Here's
it.
a hot tip. He now has a craft brewery. Him plus 13 other million Australians own craft breweries now. It's really good. Anyway.
It's the number one thing.
No, Ferrari, like stoked for Seb. It was good for him. I know
Yeah,
it was sort of
yeah.
like this year for him was either going to be, he was really going to show Ferrari what they were missing, and it was sort of lining himself up for the next drive. And it's so many haters that saying, I can't believe Perez is outperforming you and you're going. I get that, but I kind of still want both of them to be in. My mind still blows that Daddy Stroll hasn't gone. Yep, both of you, Checo and Sebastian, in my cars. That's the good thing.
Totally. Yeah.
But really, it's been a good sort of outcome for him now. He might be able to carry this through to Abu Dhabi or Bahrain and pick up some pieces if something happens towards the front of the grid. But seriously, hats off to both of those drivers for driving the pants off what is a very average car for 2020. Let's talk about Racing Point, because Lance Stroll, he pulled it out of the bag. He did what Campy always predicts, and rubbish. Amazing.
You literally predicted it.
But
That's
he's
why I'm
supposed to be
so
amazing the
said this
entire way
last
through.
podcast.
He peaked too early and then really just demolished himself pretty early on. But Campy, your thoughts of Stroll's entire weekend?
Well, he's got form in the wet. He also qualified on the front row in Monza in a Williams a couple of years back. So
He did.
he's got some form. I think qualifying, he drove really well. He extracted a second and a half more than what Perez did. That could come down to setup. You don't really know. And the first 40 laps of that race did nothing wrong.
No.
Controlled the pace. He was calm. I was even sitting with my friends last night. I was like, what are we watching here?
Yeah.
What are we watching? And I'm ruining it because they're like, oh, Campy, you're going to have to hang your head in shame on the podcast tomorrow. They're like, you're going to have to absolutely eat a humble pie, which I was ready to do.
Do they even know you? That wasn't going to happen.
Humble.
But I stayed firm in my prediction that he'd been it. No, he did nothing. He did nothing wrong.
No.
He did nothing wrong. I think he did nothing wrong. Good on him. He drove well. Do it every weekend, mate. That's what we want to see.
Yeah.
Prove me wrong. I hope we meet one day and you say, Campy, you are full of shit and a dickhead. I really hope. I hope you do well, mate.
That's what most people say when they meet Campy.
I'm a lovable lad. And a cheeky smile, guess. No, look, it's tough. Do it every weekend. But good on you. You showed
Definitely.
what you're capable of this weekend.
Yep.
You did nothing wrong. You pitted and you didn't have the pace in the tyres that you should have had.
Yeah.
It was an anomaly of a weekend.
So correct me if I'm wrong. The reason that they pitted him was because Leclerc pitted and seemed to be doing well on new inters. And they were like,
Yep.
at that point, both racing points were really falling away and Max was coming quick from third. So they were like, we have to do something. So they blinked. Little did they know that they probably could have lasted on those older inters because they were better. And just they couldn't switch those on because the track had dried up enough. They were coming straight out of blankets. There wasn't enough water left to cool them down. All those kind of things. They just didn't know. I mean, and every car's different. So it's sometimes maybe a bit foolish to go, oh, look, they're on inters. We can do inters as well. It's not the same. But
Well, what happened was Checo and Hamilton drove through the issues of the tyres and turned them into slicks, generated heat. Whereas Lance was complaining and they said, come into the pit. He's like, no, I'm staying out. This doesn't feel right. What are we doing? But then he ultimately pitted and it cost him the race. I Look, they were worried about the tyres going the end of the race anyway.
Yeah.
They were in no man's land. They didn't really know what to do.
Because-
I don't blame them for pitting him.
No.
Because Campy, can't the inters balloon out if they do get too hot and swell?
Yeah,
Isn't
well,
that
he
the
had some
thing?
graining. He had some. Well, not really. We're not too sure.
I think the
mean,
wets potentially have this thing where they can really expand out and balloon, and then you're running on just the middle of the tyre, not the outsides. Because they overinflate.
yeah.
So the interesting
It's
thing
tough.
about this whole thing for me is Stroll drove the absolute living crap out of that car way too early. So
Yeah.
this is on the pit wall for not helping him manage his tyres longer.
Yeah, he
This-
didn't need that gap.
No, and what we saw was, the winning strategy here literally was Hamilton and Perez's strategy of the first inters. Now, it's easier if you've got, we're doing tyre talk, but it's easier if you've got the first set of inters to hold them the rest of the race than what we saw with Stroll and put a brand new set of inters where the track is drying significantly more than anything else, because the first couple of laps, all it's going to do is grain the tyres more and really not give you any heat or any ability to get any of the traction that you're looking for. So if they had helped him manage his tyres a little bit more, they would have been able to transition between the inter being an intermediate and the slick, as we saw. I mean, Hamilton's front left, if you saw when he was up in Parc Fermé, was destroyed. Like, absolutely destroyed. But front right was a slick. Like, you could see the middle of it. So I feel for Lance, because, of course, as soon as he got in the mid-pack, he just lost his head a bit and he fell back, and that was disappointing. But I was excited to see some bloody emotion out of the kid for the first time ever on anything.
So he left his job.
Yep.
It's incredible. I almost fell off the chair, and it was good. Lance has glimpses. He's just not consistent, and that's what frustrates me when you've got someone like Checo next to him who is consistent, and might not always have that ability to perform that high. Although in saying that, Checo on his last lap, the spun in qualifying, was already faster than Stroll in the first sector. Yeah. So we could have seen, Max could have taken as well. So a number of things could happen, but hats off to Stroll. That's a massive confidence boost for him. But Sergio Perez, what a drive. So stoked for that guy. Really wanted him to win, but seriously,
he was
after
so
Hamilton.
pissed after qualifying too.
Yeah.
He worked so hard and he just couldn't. Yeah. He got impeded on that last lap, am I correct? Someone was in his way.
It was Verstappen Verstappen pulled out,
right.
and then he went bye-bye, which was, a bit of an issue for him. But it ultimately didn't matter because his start was fantastic.
Well, and he did say in the qualifying interview to Mark Webber, also, love that. More like Webber.
What a start.
What a legend. But he did say he preferred to start in third than second, which genuinely was good. Worked for him.
On the racing line.
Yeah.
Yep.
So really, honestly, top points for him. Someone please employ this person next year. If you go back a year ago, we're going, he's had his time, see you later. But this year, he has
what we've seen this year with
really
Hulk.
shown. Oh my goodness.
Hulk should be here. Why is he not here?
But it also
and I
shows
hope that's
how
not next year with Perez.
No, but it also shows how good this racing point is. And so Seb is very lucky when it becomes Aston Martin to be driving this package quite seriously, because there's chances like this to put it on pole and to get onto some podiums. Okay, Mercedes VB, just really sad for him. It was almost, that Lewis squeezed Danny Rick, out squeezed Ocon. Ocon spun, and then VB was
VB had to avoid.
He did, and he did, and just was like, I think it was like 4 laps to go. VB was like, that's still too many.
That's gone.
It's all right. It's all right. He's taken more bad luck this year that he doesn't have to take next year, because that first lap was bad luck.
Yeah.
The third, I know he had another spin on lap 1 where he made contact with someone, which was arguable. Ocon, yeah.
Pirouetting.
But that third spin he had, that wasn't his fault.
No.
That car wasn't. Just let go, stepped out. It's tough. But again, he's putting all the bad luck he's having this year. Yeah. He's getting it out of the way. So next year he's going to have good luck all year. He's got another good luck token in his pocket.
I would have loved to see. Would have loved to see VB fishtailing all around those corners though. He did hold a lot of them really, really well.
He just went from fishtailing to doing a mad skid.
We did call it from the start. We're like, him and Kimi would be the 2 wet weather specialists. Unfortunately, they were both at the back.
The difference in pace though from Hamilton. Yeah. Hamilton's on 48 old lap old tyres and doing a whatever it was, 40 odd. Valtteri's on a brand new set of inters and he's doing a 146.
Yeah.
It just tells you how much car setup, the smallest difference changed that race. And it really was anyone's race. And congratulations to Hamilton because he drove it impeccably. But, I mean, if Bottas had stayed out, I mean, he's behind the pack, so he's trying things.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, well, if I can find 10 seconds a lap here.
I think he said it early. He's like, let's try something. Yeah.
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 Yep.
Yeah, sad for him and for that side of the garage while there's absolute elation on the other side. But, fair play to the dude. He walked up in Parc Fermé after Lewis jumped out of the car and came and shook his hand. So this is not a guy who has any, he's probably frustrated himself or whatever else, but ultimate sportsman, ultimate gentleman, just, solid work. And, he might be an adopted Australian because of Tiffany Cromwell.
Oh, yeah.
So we love him. So well done, VB. You will come back next year, and I'm sure the next couple of races, I mean, you're not going to win the World Championship anymore, but you potentially score some points.
Hey, you could do a Rosberg win the last 3 of the season because Lewis has locked it up. He might come out, win the last 3, and then next year come out and win the first 4. That
would have been incredible.
7 on the trot to a Rosberg, and
it was.
That'd be exciting.
That would be good.
And
to see.
Then he starts to use some of his good luck credits after race 4. That'd be good to see.
Who's in charge of these good luck credits? Have you got
Campy.
a system?
No, Campy
an
is
Excel spreadsheet. Yeah,
it's the
spreadsheet.
It's the F1 gods. It's the F1 gods. I think the F1 gods will frown upon Lewis at some stage. They have to.
I imagine them with Viking helmets as well.
Oh man, look at Mark Webber.
Oh, yeah.
It's Thor.
Mark Webber for a stage in his career was genuinely considered had the worst luck in Formula One than anybody. And that move where he should have gone to Renault with Alonso was probably the icing on the cake at the time. But
anyway, is what it is.
So there are F1 gods out there, and there are good luck coins and bad luck coins.
This is the world according to Campy. Please don't write in and ask for any. Of course, Lewis winning, and interesting, we spoke a little bit about him obviously up the top, but he learnt his lessons from previous potential winning and losing world championships. He had the offer of pitting for a new set of tyres, and he was like, nope, lost this championship earlier in my career from doing that. I'm not going to do that again. So, look, it's really just a stellar drive. Watch the highlights if you haven't watched the race yet, but seriously mega drive. Awesome to see some emotion from him too, and some genuine authenticity coming through. Loved it. It was just a really solid set of interviews afterwards too. Boys, let's talk about our fantasy league because we're getting towards the end, and
Get in there.
I'm claiming this.
Get in there.
sadly, Campy, do you want to talk about the 3 of us and who's leading the 3 of us?
Well, who's back on top, boys?
Very annoying.
Just resuming my number 1 position.
Out of the Oz
It's
F1.
good to see.
I mean, you're still 20th.
But I think if you look at who's leading, the team name is who's leading, who's number 1.
Let's go through. Tommy T, why don't you take us through the best team names as picked out by me for the fantasy league?
I just want to go with the first one. You can do the rest. Tommy's third team is coming first. Moxley.
Yeah.
My man.
He is coming first. It's fantastic.
I'm going to claim that as a win.
Yeah, of course you are. He's also coming first. Our Bon Voyage, R. Reardon, Strolling Away, A. Block. Dave Munnis, honestly, mate, you've just got to settle down with these.
Away.
I like my turkey moist. Josh Lauder, Cyril's Southern Cross tattoo. I love that as well.
That's very good.
Jay Bankston, my team is graining. Just like Stroll's tyres. And H. Phillips, I give up. It's just
Give up.
The sentiment.
I'll give it. Look, he's a young kid. He's about 12, 13. He doesn't have Foxtel, so he can't watch the race, though. If someone's got a free login for the kid, someone throw it up.
I'm sure that's how this works. How the multinational Foxtel we'll just put the Oz F1 in details below. Here's our Foxtel Go login.
Everyone log in
that
at
would be
once.
fine. The podium at the moment are Moxley on 2,903 points, Jay Moore on 2,867, and Timmy Bowden on 2,775. We have no chance of coming in the top 3, but love it. Genuinely, I was sitting there this morning scrolling through those names. You made me laugh. There's so many more as well.
Genuinely.
take some time to go through and scroll through because there's many more out of the 64 teams that are there. Boys, it's been an incredible 2 weeks. One thing I wanted to say before we say goodbye, before our triple header coming up as we go down to Bahrain, is a shout out to Rowan Mitchell. Rowan wrote in an email through just saying big shout out to us and thank you very much for doing what we're doing. But he wanted to know whether or not we're going to develop some more content. And I thought it'd be a good opportunity to just have a pre-announcement of what might be happening at the end of this year as we do some more content. So
This is James's way of saying, boys, it's now public and you have to step up.
This is not just a text message. This is something that's actually happening.
Work.
The first thing that we're going to be doing is more video content. So we're going to chop out the sort of first half of the podcast and make that a weekly content talking about news and everything else. And we're going to have a race review rather than a race recap and a recap the entire period between the last podcast and this podcast. So that's the first thing we're going to do. The second thing is we're going to do some editorial work. So this is sort of a pre-shout out. If you're interested in helping us with anything in that space, in anything in the writing space, get in touch. There'll be details below of how you can email me, but we are on the hunt for someone to help us with some editorial content. We're going to redo the entire Oz F1 website as well. But 2021 is going to be big for Oz F1.
I'm building it
because there's going to be a set built. We're going to have.
You're building the website. You can't figure out your iPad.
He's building his website on the iPad. We're going to have a set, which hopefully means
we're going to have our own studio.
Which hopefully means I can actually get down to Melbourne and film some stuff with you guys, which would be awesome.
No, we're still a gulag down here. I'm not sure we're going to move back, Jim. But look, they say it's getting better, but it's still a fucking shambles.
You're not wrong. But the last bit is that I have heard from the AusGP guys, the media accreditation people, I have engaged with someone. So who knows? We might see a whole stack of video and audio content as well as a podcast coming out of the AusGP. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
We should, right into Paul Little, help us out too. Just get these. Just tweet them 10 times a day. Get Oz F1 on board.
If you want to help, if you genuinely want to help us out, and I would love that. If you haven't yet left us a review on Apple Podcasts, I know I keep saying this, but it genuinely makes a difference. People can see that and go, yes, it's either there or it's not. We are charting all over the world, and a massive shout out to wherever you're listening. Genuinely, it's surprising seeing sometimes we're charting in Israel and Canada, and all sorts of wonderful countries, which I didn't know where Formula One was big too. So big shout out to you there. But if you haven't yet, please take some time to either leave a review, follow us on Twitter or on Instagram. It's going to make us a lot more employable in the getting into the paddock thing, and we can run amok.
Employable.
We can run amok. Lots of video content.
Campy's not employable.
I don't want a job.
I don't want a job when you look like you don't have one either. That's okay, my man. Well, boys.
Yeah.
On that,
that's what I was scared of the video. I sound what I look like.
And on that
hard truth, it's time to end. Thanks so much for watching. If you're watching us on YouTube and listening wherever you're getting it, we'll see you next time. See you guys.